chapter entitled What Prahlada Learned in the Womb. Evam hi loka krutibhikrutami kashaishnavaha satishayana nirmala Kshayishnava Shatishaya Nirmala Tasmad Drushta Shruta Dushanam Param Bhaktiyoktayesham Bhajatatmalabdhaye Evam hi loka krutibhikrutami Kshayishnavasatishayana nirmala Tasmad adrushta shruta Dushanam param Bhaktiyoktayesham Bhajatatmalabdhaye Evam hi loka krutibhikrutami Kshayishnavah Satishayana nirmala Tasmad adrushta shruta Dushanam param Bhaktiyoktayesham Bhajatatmalabdhaye Evam hi loka krutibhikrutami Shaishnavashatishayatma nirmalam Tasmat adrushta shrutadhushanam param Bhaktiyoktayesham Bhajatatmalabdhaye Eham hi loka krutibhikrutami Kshayishnavasatishayana nirmala Vaishnavis. Eam hi loka krutibhikrutami Kshayishnavasatishayana nirmala Tasmat adrushta shrutadhushanam param Bhaktiyoktayesham Bhajatatmalabdhaye Eam hi loka Kshayishnavasatishayana nirmala Tasmat adrushta shrutadhushanam param Bhaktiyoktayesham Bhajatatmalabdhaye evam. Similarly, as earthly wealth and possessions are impermanent, he, indeed, Lokha, higher planetary systems like heaven, the moon, the sun, and Brahmaloka, Kratubhi, by performing great sacrifices, Krutha, achieved, Ami, all those, Kshayishnavaha, perishable, impermanent, Satishaya, although more comfortable and pleasing, Na, not, Nirmala, pure, free from disturbances, Tasmat, therefore, Adrushta Shruta, never seen or heard, Dushanam, whose fault, Param, the supreme, Bhaktya, with great devotional love, Ukthaya, as described in the Vedic literature, not mixed with jnana or karma. Isham, the Supreme Lord, Bhajata, worship, Atma Labdhaye, for self-realization. Translation and purport by Stephen Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It is learned from Vedic literature that by performing great sacrifices, one may elevate himself to the heavenly planets. However, although life on the heavenly planets is hundreds and thousands of times more comfortable than life on earth, the heavenly planets are not pure, Nirmalam, are free from the taints of material existence. The heavenly planets are also temporary, and therefore they are not the goal of life. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, has never been seen or heard to possess inability. Consequently, for your own benefit and self-realization, you must worship the Lord with great devotion, as described in the revealed scriptures. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Kshine Punye Mrityalokam Vishanti. Even if one is promoted to the higher planetary systems by performing great sacrifices, which are accompanied by the sinful act of sacrificing animals, the standard of happiness in Swargaloka is also not free of disturbances. There is a similar struggle for existence even for the king of the heaven, Indra. Thus, there is no practical benefit in promoting oneself to the heavenly planets. Indeed, from the heavenly planets, one must return to this earth after one has exhausted the results of his pious activities. In the Vedas, it is said, Tad yateha karma jito loka kshiyate evam evamruta. Punya jito loka kshiyata. As the material positions we acquire here by hard work are vanquished in due course of time, one's residence in the heavenly planets is also eventually vanquished. According to one's activities of piety in different degrees, one obtains different standards of life. But none of them are permanent, and therefore they are all impure. Consequently, one should not endeavor to be promoted to the higher planetary systems only to return to this earth or descend still lower to the hellish planets. To stop this cycle of going up and coming down, one must take to Krishna consciousness. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore said, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya, 19th chapter, 151 verse. The living entity is rotating in the cycle of birth and death, going sometimes to the higher planets and sometimes to the lower planets. But that is not the solution to the problems of life. But if by the grace of Krishna one is fortunate enough to meet a guru, a representative of Krishna, one gets the clue to returning home back to Godhead, having achieved self-realization. This is what is actually desirable. Bhajatatma labdhaye. One must take to Krishna consciousness for self-realization. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kathamahyam Dadati Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunadhanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, in the previous verse, Prahlad Maharaj told to his schoolmates, what did he say? He was telling one's riches, beautiful wife and female friends, one's sons and daughters, one's residence, one's domestic animals like cows, elephants, horses, one's treasury, economic development and sense gratification. Indeed, even the lifetime in which one can even enjoy all these material opulences are certainly temporary and flickering. Since the opportunity of human life is temporary, what benefit can these material opulences give to the sensible man who has understood himself to be eternal? So there he rejected all the material possessions. So this is pretty much everything a normal person's life, an average person's life. Do you mean quit everything? If you tell this thing to somebody, because in any person's life, there are 8 things are considered common. So they work for those 8 things. It is mentioned in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, 2nd canto in relation to Parikshit Maharaj. When Parikshit Maharaj heard he was cursed, so he renounced all the possessions. In that connection, Sukadeva Goswami tells that Parikshit Maharaj left his, it says, Atma Jaya. So Jaya means one's own wife, Atma, the material body, and the mind and senses are also Atma. Atma, Jaya, and Sutta, those who born from the body, Sutta. And he says, Gruha, his house, his kingdom, he left. And he also left what? He left his Dravina, his riches, all the opulences which he has, Dravina, and Bandhushu, all the relatives, he left them. And he also left Pashu. So Pashu is his chariots, his horses, his elephants, everything, he left them, Pashu. And he also finally left the career as a king. He left all these 8 and finally went to the Ganges to sit and hear Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So if you consider in a normal man's life, these 8 things are very much make up their whole life. And different degree may vary, depends on when he is situated. But pretty much this is the life for a normal person. And Bhagavatam is from the beginning to the end telling the same thing. So these are all temporary. Leave. Okay, normal person may question, okay, I will leave everything, what should I do? But those who follow Vedic literature, Vedic tradition, they may think, okay, I leave the material world, but I will go to the spiritual, not the spiritual world, but to the heavenly planets. That's why in the next verse, Prahlad Maharaj again is telling, no, you don't go to the heavenly planets also, because in the heavenly planets also, the enjoyment is temporary, and the heavenly planets itself is temporary. We know from the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam that all the material universes comes from whom? Who is the Vishnu Avatara? Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu? Or Garbhoka Sai Vishnu? Or Karnodaka Sai Vishnu? Karnodaka Sai Vishnu. Correct? From his bodily four holes, when he is inhaling, exhaling, so millions of universes, they come and go. How much time it takes for you to breathe? Do you count? Very fraction, isn't it? So within that fraction of time, even for us, what to speak of the Lord, millions of universes are manifesting, and within those universes, all the 14 planetary systems are there. If you take this one particular universe, higher planetary systems and lower planetary systems are there. And they are all manifested within a fraction of breath. And once he is inhales, and they are all gone. Isn't it? So that is why Shastra tells the clear-cut idea. They are just manifesting within the breathing period of the Mahavishnu. But this Mahavishnu is originally situated, who is the source of all the avatars? The Lord himself, Krishna. He is not avatari. He is avatari, he is not avatara. And all the millions and millions of incarnations, avatars, different, are coming from him. And when one goes to the spiritual world, when a devotee goes back to the spiritual world in Vaikuntha planets, he can serve him. When we are serving him, say for example, somebody may perfected himself and become a friend of the Lord. He can run with the Lord. He can play with the Lord. While playing, he breathes so much. But when he is as Mahavishnu, when he is breathing, universes come and go. So you see the difference? So when we are in the external energy, so our fluctuation always there, manifesting and unmanifesting. But whereas in the spiritual world, it's a eternal, continuous. Our desire to enjoy will continue with the Lord. And we see similar verses in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, 11th canto also. So 11th canto, when Maharaj Nimi met Navayogendras. So in the 3rd chapter of 11th canto, he asked a question. Just bear with me. I'll read the translation. In the verse number 17, Maharaj Nimi asks a question. King Nimi said, O great sage, please explain how even a foolish materialist can easily cross over the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord, which is always insurmountable for those who are not self-controlled. In answer to this, Sri Prabhupada said, accepting the roles of male and female in human society, the conditioned souls unite in sexual relationships. Thus, they constantly make material endeavors to eliminate their unhappiness and unlimitedly increase their pleasure. But one should see that they inevitably achieve exactly the opposite result. In other words, their happiness inevitably vanishes. And as they grow older, their material discomfort increases. Wealth, so we see in the 39th verse, summarized here. And in the 19th verse, he says, rest of the things. Wealth is a perpetual source of distress. It is most difficult to acquire, and it is virtual death for the soul. What satisfaction does one actually gain from his wealth? Similarly, how can one gain ultimate or permanent happiness from one's so-called home, children, relatives, and domestic animals, which are all maintained by one's hard-earned money? In the next verse comes to today's context. One cannot find permanent happiness even on the heavenly planets, which one can attain in the next life by ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifices. Even in material heaven, the living entity is disturbed by rivalry with his equals and envy of those superior to him. And since one's residence in heaven is finished with the exhaustion of pious fruitive activities, the denizens of heaven are afflicted by fear, anticipating the destruction of their heavenly life. Thus they resemble kings who, though enviously admired by ordinary citizens, are constantly harassed by enemy kings, and who therefore never attain actual happiness. So after explaining this, even going to the heavenly planets, no use. So Prabhupada is concluding, so what one should do. So we also see in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explained the non-permanent nature of the higher planetary systems. Then he concluded in the purport, Srila Prabhupada said, so one should, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed to Rupa Goswami, he said, the living entity rotating from higher to down, he should take shelter of Guru. So even in the Bhagavatam we see, Prabhupada is telling, therefore, any person who seriously desires real happiness must seek a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of a bona fide guru is that he has realized the conclusions of the scriptures by deliberation and is able to convince others those conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, should be understood to be bona fide spiritual masters. So what is the conclusion? So we rejecting the material opulences, relations. We are rejecting the going to the heavenly planets. But in order to get the ultimate good, so one has to take the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. Only he can give that, not even going to the upper planetary systems or lower planetary system, because all the relations, attachments, happiness we get up and down within the universe are perishable. So we have perishable goods and imperishable goods. So like that, all the perishable happiness, all the happiness which we get within this material world and the higher planetary systems is perishable, because the planets itself are perishable. So that's what we see in the Bhagavad Gita, also in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna explains, Aha Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravrutino Arjuna. So all the planetary systems are Brahma Bhuvana Loka, so even up to the higher planetary system Brahmaji. So all those planetary systems are coming, bhukta, bhukta, praliyate, all coming and going, coming and going. But Krishna says, Mam upete tu kaunteya. But if you take shelter of me, dukkhalayam asashvatam. You will not come to the place where dukkhalayam asashvatam, where the happiness is temporary and ashashvatam. So you won't come back to here. And why it is perishable? In the Bhagavatam also it is very nicely explained. In the case of, if you see King Nriga in the 10th canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So Nriga, he was performing so many pious activities. But unfortunately, one time when he was giving in charity the cows, so the cow he gave to a Brahmana, and that cow left from the property of that first Brahmana and it went to the other Brahmana's property. No, it meshed back to the Nriga's cows, and Nriga, again he unknowingly donated that cow to second Brahmana. And now both Brahmanas were fighting for that cow. And they came to Nriga and they explained. Nriga said, no, please pardon me, unknowingly I have given this cow, but in replacement of that one cow, I will give you as much as cows you want. But both of them said, no, we don't want, I want only this cow. But finally, Nriga was cursed to go to hell. So judgment day has come. So he went to abode of Yamaraj, where Yamaraj checked the diary about his account, and he said, my dear Nriga, you have unlimited, unending stay at the heavenly planets, so you can enjoy. But you have, for this particular act, you have to undergo the hellish condition. So which one you want? Nriga thought, if I take the heavenly pleasure, he'll be conditioned by going through the pleasure, and at the end, if he has to come to suffer, it'll be not so good. So he also in the mode of goodness, because mode of goodness, beginning is painful, but the end is sweet. So he thought, okay, I will take the curse first. And he said, as soon as he said, I will take this first, Yamaraj said, fall down. And immediately he fell, and he tells in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, as he is falling from the abode of Yamaraj, his body changing to lizard. But fortunately, he got darshan of the Lord, even in that body. But still, he had to go, even to go to the spiritual world, he had to undergo all whatever credit is there, because he didn't perform bhakti. He didn't perform bhakti. So he had to, enjoy the heavenly pleasures. If he remembers still, he will go back. There we see, even the opulences or the pleasures which he will undergo at the heavenly planets, still it's a temporary. And what to speak of the persons who go there, but even the king of the heaven, who is that? Indra. We see how much envious he is. In the case of Prithu Maharaj, what did he do? Stole the horse, because out of envy that Prithu Maharaj, if he complete 100 Ashwamedha Yajnas, he will become a rivalry for him. He will become a competitor. Even Indra in the heavenly planets, he is feeling. Like how, here normal kings feel, normal politicians. And we also see, even the Supreme Lord, when he went, after Bali Maharaj, he got, is that Bali Maharaj? jewelry of, not Bali Maharaj, you know the name? He was stolen Mother Aditi's earrings. Bhaumasura? Anyway, so he rescued, he got the umbrella of Vamandev, he rescued the earrings of Aditi, everything, because Indra couldn't able to fight with that person, with that demon. So Lord went along with Satyabhama, that's Narakasura. Narakasura. He got other name also, Bhaumasura. So he fought with Bhaumasura and he finished fight. He reclaimed all the stolen properties. He had given that to Indra. And while returning, Satyabhama asked, we came here, you promised me that time when Narada Muni came to Dwaraka and he gave one parijata flower to your first wife, Rukmini. So that time you promised me you will give me a big tree. So now Satyabhama is reminding the Lord, Krishna. So we are here. And Lord said, okay. And he just playfully plucked the whole tree and put it on the back of Garuda. Same Indra offered prayers and asked for help. When Lord is taking Parijata tree and Indra started fighting with the Lord, you see that envious nature, how flickering they are. But of course, Lord defeated Indra and he took the Parijata also. Because everything is a possession, in possession of the Lord. Everything is Lord's property. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. And Lord is the only Suhrut. Suhrudam Sarvabhutanu. And Lord, that's why here in the verse translation also, it says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, has never been seen or heard to possess inability. So there is nothing less in Lord's possession. So when a devotee understands that, living in the material world is perishable, going in the heavenly planets is also perishable, but my only permanent happiness, imperishable place, even when all the material universes are inundated in the devastation, but only one that remains is the abode of the Lord, and only the person remains is the Supreme Lord and His kingdom. When we understand, we will come to a right path. But even to come to that understand, we have to have the association of the devotees and the mercy of the devotees. And while practicing bhakti also, in the beginning stages, one may develop a mentality of enjoying separately or having a fruity mentality, because the conditioning is coming from millions of lifetimes, but it won't disentangle immediately. It may happen to some people, but many of us struggle to come to a level that anyabhilashita shunyam, jnana karmadi anavrutam. It takes very, very, very long time to come to a stage, anyabhilashita. I don't want anything else except the service to the Supreme Lord. So that comes very, very long time. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where this verse is quoted from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 19:151. Just few verses after, verse number 170. 176. In that it is mentioned that Bhukti Mukti Spruha Yavat Pishachi Hrudi vartate tavat bhakti sukha shyatra katam abhyudayo bhavet. Translation is, the material desire to enjoy the material world and the desire to become liberated from material bondage are considered to be two witches, and they hunt one like ghosts. As long as these witches remain within the heart, however, how can one feel transcendental bliss? As long as these two witches remain in the heart, there is no possibility of enjoying the transcendental bliss of devotional service. So one may ask, oh, I became a devotee 15-20 years ago, but why I am not feeling so ecstatic? Why my hairs are not standing on the edge? And why tears are not falling? So we have to recheck why these two witches are in the heart. What are the two witches? Enjoy the material world and the desire to become liberated from material bondage. So these two. Just few verses before also, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very nicely describes. He says, we all know the verse Bhaktilata Bij, the seed of devotional service. So here it said, Guru Krishna Prasadepai Bhaktilata Bij. That seed has sprouted in our heart. And how does the seed grows? What are the jala? Shravana Kirtana Jale. So every day we put that seed, Shravana and Kirtana, hearing and chanting we put. So then the seed is growing. While the seed is growing, because we also experience in the garden when you watering the trees, along with what is necessary, say if you are watering to a rose plant, along with that you see unnecessary weeds also grow, taking the advantage of these nutrients. And those unwanted in the verse number 159 of 19th chapter Madhya Leela, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu says, some unnecessary creepers growing with the bhakti creeper are the creepers of behavior unacceptable for those trying to attain perfection. So he tells what are those unwanted creepers are diplomatic behavior, animal killing, mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, and mundane importance. All these are unwanted creepers. So as the devotee rendering devotional service and hearing Shravana Kirtana Jala, he is putting on the bij which we fortunately received from the spiritual master, Guru Krishna Prasadepai Bhaktilata Bij. But while we are watering, these unwanted creepers are growing. So these creepers will take all the energy, unwanted. If you notice, when the weeds are too much, so all the nutrients taken by the weeds. And these weeds, literally if you ever experience doing gardening, weeds take more nutrients than the normal plant. Weeds take more nutrients than the normal plant. So they take all the nourishment which is supposed to be given to the actual plant, that is bhakti creeper. So that is why this diplomatic behavior, if at all we ever got experience, you see how much troublesome to be a diplomat. Animal killing, it's atmahat. So that itself removes one of the biggest sinful activities that removes all the pious credit, animal killing. And mundane profiteering, doing what is there for me, profiteering, what I gain by doing. Mundane adoration, so people should follow me. Mundane importance, creating a false importance for oneself. So these are the unnecessary creepers growing in the field along with the bhakti creeper. So one has to be very mindful to experience the joy of devotional service. So that is why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he summarized all the instructions into 8 verses. So in those 8 verses, when the transition takes place from pure devotional service, in the middle verse, he says, the 4th verse, he says, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundarim. Nadanam, I don't want any wealth, any gain. Najanam, I don't want any followers. Nasundarim, I don't want any beautiful women or nothing. Because people go, different traditions in the world, different religions, they promote this, to pull the people to their tradition. Some they say, oh, you get 72 virgins, you come to my religion, you will go to the heaven, so you will enjoy there for a long time. But Bhagavatam is rejecting Kaitava Dharma, is rejecting all the Kaitava Dharmas and saying, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundarim. And next one, he says, Kavitam, I don't even want the results of my pious activities. People want to enjoy in the heavenly planets. But Mahaprabhu is saying, no, I don't even want results of my pious activities. And then what he is asking? Mama Janmani Janmanishware. It doesn't matter if I have to take birth again in the material world, doesn't matter. Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhavatad Bhakti Rahetu Kitvai. So I want unflinching, unmotivated, uninterrupted devotion to your lotus feet. Because only joy a living entity gets when the living entity engaged in the service of the Lord. So that is the only imperishable happiness one can save for his account. So other than that, there is no happiness in the world. Happiness is there, but it's a perishable happiness. Say for example, you are staying, you have a residence, and every day your owner is asking, vacate the house, vacate the house, vacate the house. Maximum you may live for 1 month. How miserable it is. How miserable it is. So similarly, going into different planetary systems is like that. So we are all came to Australia. As soon as Australia coming, many people say, oh, I want permanent residency. Why we want permanent residency? Because we don't want to change the visa again and again and uncertain situation. Even in the material world to live, we want permanent. And what to speak of living on a higher platform. So we don't want that going to heavenly planets, your visa renewal, again come here, perform pious activity, do PT, NATI, study, course, that, this, apply, again get the credit, 3 more years, 3 more lifetimes. So we want permanent residency. Real permanent residency is the spiritual world, Vaikunta. Vigata Kunta Asmat. So there is no misery. There is no birth, there is no death, there is no old age, there is no disease. So that's the only Vaikunta planet. So any other place we go, from the Brahmaloka to the Patal-loka, these 4 miseries are there. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, those are there. So that is why devotees' only aim is to attain the Supreme Lord's abode. So, and Krishna also promising. So in the Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter we see Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Ejana Pariyupasate. Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Ejana Pariyupasate Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. So Krishna is giving a complete LIC policy. Yoga Kshema. Your yoga means what? Connection to the Supreme Lord. So your deliverance from this material existence to me is guaranteed. But he gives a condition clause, Ananyas Chintayantamam. So only thing we have to revisit in our daily sadhana, are we doing Ananya Bhakti? Okay, Ananya Bhakti, one may ask, do you mean to say that I have to stop all other activities and do? Not necessarily at this stage, because we have to perform devotional service, the level of consciousness we are at, by doing that devotional service, our consciousness will be purified and we will be elevated to the higher consciousness. But for us to do the Ananya Bhakti is very easy, at least while performing the elements of Sadhana Bhakti. The first and foremost Sadhana Bhakti element is what? Chanting the holy name, correct? So while doing our japa, meditation, chanting, is there anybody, come to your mind and check what you are doing in your mind? No. Is there anybody going to give you highest distinction when you finish your 16 rounds very nicely? No. And is there anybody praise you, oh Prabhuji, you did 16 rounds? Of course, devotees praise to encourage us, but there is nobody going to reward you. Like book distributions course, every day we come and chant, read in front of Prabhupada and the deities, and devotees say Jai. But nobody says Jai whenever we finish our 16 rounds. Of course, your mother may say, if you are finishing 16 rounds. But there is nobody. It's a self-motivated, isn't it, to chant 16 rounds. Within that 16 rounds, if somebody is just focusing how to please Krishna, how to hear each and every mantra, doing sincere rounds, that itself, the japa itself, the chanting the holy name itself is a pure devotional service. Because it is not motivated by any ulterior motive, and it is solely, wholly to glorify the Lord. So when we do with that consciousness, that itself becomes Ananya Bhakti. And as every day we chant, after Tulasi Puja, the 11th one, we also remove that offense. And chanting, Srila Prabhupada says, when you go to Mayapur Kirtan Mela, they distribute pamphlets. In that they mention different quotations Srila Prabhupada had given. So in that one of the quotation I read once, that our 99% of our devotional service depends on the quality of chanting we perform. So 99% of our devotional progress depends on the quality of chanting. And that chanting will reflect on all the other services we perform. So that is why chanting is very, very important. The immediate way to do the Ananya Bhakti is chanting the holy names of the Lord. And so that even surpasses going to the heavenly planets. That's why Śrīmad Bhāgavatam from the beginning to end tells us, even in the first canto, 5th chapter, when Narada Muni instructing Vyasadeva, he tells, that verse number 18. He says, persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet Brahmaloka down to the lowest planet Patala. As far as the happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in course of time, just as in course of time we obtain miseries even though we do not desire them. So our endeavor is only to please the Lord. I'll stop here. If you have any questions or comments. Hey, Kriva.
Thank you for the wonderful class, Prabhuji. My question was, you said about Indradev, like he stole Prithu Maharaj's horse, and then when Krishna wanted to take the Parijata tree, then he also fought with Krishna. Then Prabhuji, we see that always in the Śrīmad we always see that Asura and Sura, they say the difference, like Sura are meant to be good, they always surrender to Krishna. Then how do we understand with Indra fighting with Krishna?
Very good question. because they are devotees. So that's why even Indra did so many nuisance. But still, Lord supported him. He didn't even chastise him. Even if you see, after he inundated the whole Vraja with torrents of rain, so Lord lifted Govardhan Parvat. So that episode finished, and Indra came with Surabhi cow to please the Lord. So at that time, Lord didn't even chastise Indra. He was in an angry mood. Of course, Lord does, even anger also very sweet in the Lord's face. But he didn't even correct Indra. Why? Because only one quality Lord sees is that he is my devotee. He is my devotee. So that's why he didn't even correct. But as we mentioned, they are karma mishra bhaktas. So, and they are mishra bhaktas, not pure devotees. So that's where those impurities come and go. When the impurities cover their consciousness, they behave in that way. But we have to see the magnanimous and sweet nature of the Lord towards his devotees. So that is why in Bhagavad Gita also Krishna is saying, even a devotee when he performs abominable activity, so but still he is considered to be a sadhu, saintly.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Because of the devotion which he has.
Prabhuji, I just wanted to say, but if the demigods are attacking Krishna, isn't that what demons also do? So then,
yeah, demons does, but he is feeling pride. I am Indra. Why? How can you take my property? So momentarily he forgot.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the nice class. Prabhuji, we see how Indra he became proud when Krishna was taking the Parijata tree, that he started fighting with him. But is it okay to become proud that in Krishna consciousness that we're getting Lord Krishna's mercy? Is it okay if we become proud in that sense?
When you get Krishna's mercy?
Like when we're feeling very happy in Krishna consciousness, can we become like proud that Krishna is giving us mercy and
being proud when we receive mercy from Krishna? Okay. We don't feel proud because we don't have any ability, any ability that attracts the mercy of the Lord. We don't have. It's the nature of the Lord. He is so merciful. Only because of that, He is somehow giving the opportunity. But rather, becoming proud, the best way is distributing that mercy to others. So that brings proud to the Lord. That brings proud to the Lord. So you are gathering mercy, but there are so many people who require that mercy. So we distribute that mercy. So that brings proud. So we should be proud for only one thing, that we are able to distribute that mercy. We become at least a small instrument in the service of the Lord. Instrument in the service of Srila Prabhupada and the Parampara. But we don't, go and jump up and down.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Is that Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for your class.
Hare Krishna.
You said that one of the unwanted creepers growing with the bhakti creeper is the diplomatic behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, like if you're doing like book distribution, you kind of have to be a bit diplomatic with people. So I was just wondering about that.
That diplomatic behavior not among the devotees, So to bring the people to Krishna consciousness, so you can follow the Mahajanas. So who is the greatest Mahajana we have? Who is the greatest preacher known? Going, yes, Narada Muni. How diplomatically he preaches. Isn't it? So you can follow in his footsteps, but not while doing devotional service among the devotees. So that diplomatic behavior is not good. To take a position, to become famous, like those things. So those are hard creepers. Hare Krishna. Okay, no question, we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Grandhara Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai.
Go to Crossways, but I think now I am.
Haribol.